Gatton. At the last board meeting, I noted that there was a vote to approve payment for the East Current Economic Alliance, or the KEDC, as well as for Gavia. And as a former employee of Gavia, I know that every February they put out an economic roundtable report, and I'd just like to ask the board and the RCSD here if we may be able to provide them with more information as far as what is going on in Rosamond. As an employee of them in the past, I have tried to gather more information to put it out to this economic roundtable report, and just have not gotten the feedback that I needed. So I was hoping that speaking with you guys, we may be able to get some more information out, because that economic roundtable report that I'm speaking of is given out nationwide as a tool to attract businesses to the Antelope Valley, as well as local businesses, to help them provide them with information on why it's good to do business in the area. And if we could just use that as a marketing tool for Rosamond as well, by just providing them more information on why Rosamond is a great place to do business, I think it would greatly benefit us as a community. Thank you.
I got one question for you. What is the cost?
The cost to provide them information is nothing.
Okay.
So there's no cost to it at all. And as a member of Gavia, which you guys already are, I'm sure they would be actually coming to you requesting information from the RCSD.
Mr. Burns, can you handle it for us?
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here tonight to help us to decide what the public business is and how we're about to cause it to happen. And again, I'd like to wish you the season's greetings, and thank you again for being here. Item 2, presentations.
The other one is straightforward too, and we have a third one. But to try to discuss all three of these tonight in this open session, to me, is not a wise thing to do. It'd be better to have a workshop.
Well, I understand.
Each one of them, and maybe call them in to interview each one of them.
My understanding of the law basically is that contracts with attorneys are a little bit different than other contracts, and that they are something new sunshine, and they are people you get to talk about, at least talk about.
A workshop would be open to the public, but it wouldn't be at a regular meeting.
Yeah, but I think we're in urgent need to have an attorney.
I don't think we're in an urgent need.
And as far as with respect to Allison Burns, I think she's probably one of the finest attorneys we have available to us.
Well, you can call for the question and you can take a vote.
Can I continue since you brought up the issue? If I could expound on that. Estrada, Yoke, and Carlson around has a 110 member law firm, as you know.
They're only people.
And the represent many public entities. Probably the toughest entity I think any attorney could represent, in my mind, would be one that's run by one of the finest trial lawyers in the country, RX Paris, and to be able to keep somebody with that much energy focused on what needs to be done correctly and what needs to be done the right way. It says a lot that she's still the attorney there after many years. And I think if there's nothing else, that is one thing you ought to consider. And, that's my 2 cents on the point. I think we're in desperate need of a good attorney.
I know Nick.
And I think she's a good one.
Sorry, but my opinion is.
Excuse me, please. Mr. Webb had his hand up first. Mr. Webb.
Hey, good evening, Board. Merry Christmas to you all. I hope you have good holidays. First of all, can you hear me from here, sir?
Yes.
As far as the legal position, I don't think that no one's going to challenge what it is, but I think this is what happens when we race in to do something because we want it done our way. We're now without legal counsel. 2 weeks ago, we had to get rid of legal counsel. Now we're debating what counsel we should have. I would ask that, everything else we've done, look at a workshop. Like I said, I don't think that the public's position may change it, but at least it entitles us to hear who they are. Mr. Glennon brought up something that he had a concern about. I don't know what the concern is, but that's something that probably should be taken up in closed session. But in 2 to 3 weeks, does it really hurt that much? There's legal counsel available that we could get help from the community if we needed it. But Director Landsgaard, I'd ask you, what's the rush to bring that particular person on board? You brought up their qualifications. Mr. Glenn said he had concerns about them. Maybe instead of you folks challenging one another on it, you folks get together and we have a community workshop and let those persons do a presentation, because one of the things I hope we don't do anymore, we battle one another. I had one of the most embarrassing moments about a week ago when the person asked me, what were all of us doing? I don't want to go there anymore, so I want to help us get better. I want to reserve comments about what does go on, but I hope that we can find a medium so that we can get things done. We're starting off again with the challenge. Olaf, you believe in the person. Director Glenn may not like the person. Is it that imperative that we have someone tonight to represent this district, tonight, this minute? Or do we honor the request of one of your board members to consider a workshop? And again, I can't say yea or nay to none of it, but I want to be able to support the board as we put forward. So let's entertain that thought, perhaps a workshop, let them do a presentation to us or to you folks and see what they can bring forward to us.
And to rush into this, I believe that the workshop would be fine. All of you sit down with the 3 different people that have applied, and you were really hasty only to fire the last council we had, so let's take some time and hire the right one. So do the workshop.
When we hired the attorney back in January, what was the process that you guys, the other board, did we go through all of this that we're doing now, or did you just hire?
We went through several interviews and an extensive process, not like this.
Well done.
Well done, but not,
So you guys are starting up?
You know, Rosamond needs help at this particular time, and the help that we need certainly isn't fighting each other.
I agree with that, but I do not agree with what just happened.
Okay.
I don't believe it was really a fair way of doing it.
Well, we never
Mr.
had that say-so on anything else.
Mr. Landsgaard had this attorney during his problems with the district previously. Now all of a sudden he's putting him back in.
Not true.
Who represented you when you first came on the board? Wasn't it
When I
this
first came
lady?
on the board, Miss Burns was assisting us, yes, that was 2 weeks ago, not before I was on the board.
So you knew her, and you already had her for counsel.
No, actually I post her as an attorney. She did a very good job representing the city of Lancaster, but she's very honest and very direct.
I'm not degrading her honesty or anything else, and I'm sure she's a great lawyer. But the fact is, you just put them in. You did not look at all 3 attorneys that have applied for this position. You just made up your mind again and did it.
In our town, because the first and third Wednesdays are the school board. And that's the way it's been for years. In years past, Mr. Bailey, Mr. Brennan used to serve on the school board as well. So that made a lot of sense. At some point in time, we can change. We don't have to go to first and third Tuesdays. We can. One of the things that's not on here that I would like to see is maybe if we do have meetings, make sure we do the closed sessions before, like the school board does, an hour before the regular meeting. So we do start the meetings at 7. But if we're going to have a closed session item, we can go into closed session, and by the time we report out within an hour or so, the community's still there and they know what's going on, rather than getting rid of the people, making them wait all day long, and hoping they leave so that nobody hears what goes on. That's not really the way we want to do things. Especially not have the press leave, which has been the cases in the past, and that I experienced the last two special meetings, or the last meetings I attended. You all left on September 25th, and I hung around, and I guess that's normal. And I'd rather have the press there when we finish a closed session item, rather than leaving because we made it at the end of the meeting. That's kind of the signal to everybody clear the room. That's not the way it's supposed to be. And it used to be the way we did it when I was serving as the attorney on the district. There's a reason we did that, because we only had that little building, and we only had one room that anybody could ever meet in. So everybody actually literally had to clear the room, and you had the closed session. So that's the tradition from the RCSD to come from that way. But now we have a big room where people can stay in. It's warm or it's cool, depending on the time of year. We've got a conference room. We can go in there at 6 o'clock at night, have the closed session item, come out at 7, or whenever. If it's something that's carrying on a little long, people at least know that. But it's something that, that's what I want to have on there. I'm not sure that it's on there. But whether it's the first and third Tuesday, whether it remains the second and fourth Wednesdays, and it moves to 7 o'clock, those are things that I'd like to, either way. 7 o'clock makes a much better meeting time all the way around, I think.
The reason for moving it to the first and third Tuesday of the month, other than to accommodate your new legal counsel.
No, it's not to accommodate the.
But that's what he just said.
I understand that. Okay?
So it's,
You didn't hear what the rest of us had to say.
You served for me, Rick.
But we
I
paid-
I would just like to know, please, why the reason is to move it from the second and fourth Wednesday, which it's been forever,
Okay?
to the first and third Tuesday of the month. I mean, if you've got a real slam dunk reason for doing it that makes a lot of sense, okay. But just to move it to those days, even when you had the press already say, we can't be here those days, it really needs to be reconsidered. I don't have a problem with 7 o'clock time, that's fine. But I think you should keep it at the second and fourth Wednesday of the month.
Right now.
Okay.
Again, my name is Albert, and I'd just like to basically second what Mr. Wood said. I haven't really heard a whole lot of the reasoning behind it, and also there are other community meetings going on. I know at least the first Monday of the month, the Rosamond Chamber has a committee meeting on that day as well for the economic restructuring for the downtown Rosamond project. So I would just like to ask for more information on why the change.
Tuesday, not Monday.
The time is really a great idea. That 7 o'clock is a perfect time for, in my business, and I'm sure a lot of other working people, that they can get off work and grab something to eat and then come over to the meeting. So it gives a better leeway of us attending these meetings. The Tuesday part of it, that doesn't matter one way or another. But if it's better for Tuesday for a lot of people, it'll be bad for Tuesday for a lot of people also, so.
Could you state your name?
Newspapers, yeah, bad.
You're right, Director Wallace. Every day of the week could probably be considered bad, something that's going on. 7 o'clock, I think, for some of us coming from down the road could be a better time. The concern that I would have, are we doing this to benefit the director's schedules? Director Landsgaard, the comment he made for legal counsel. I would hope that the community gets the benefit and not the people getting paid gets the benefit. If the legal counsel can't be here, perhaps they should adjust their schedule. When I was a board member, I left work early to be here on time. So I think there's always an adjustment in the schedule. But I hope that we're doing it so it's going to benefit the community's well-being and not a select group. Here is that the perception that you may be doing the right thing the right way, but the perception, everything that's come up, it said, a question came up about looking at some other entities. We're going to vote on what we have. Mr. McKay, you're the president, but Olaf runs the meetings. Now maybe that's the, sir, okay, again, perception. Sitting back here, I see you as the president, and I see Olaf doing all the talking. I know he has a tendency to want to talk over everyone, and that's fine, I have that same problem. But the perception is that it's already a done deal. So maybe it's easier if you tell us what you're going to do and say to hell with the community's well-being, just say we're going to do this and be done with it. Because everything that has come up, and I'll be done, but everything that's come up, quick discussion, a 4-to-1 vote, we're going to do it. Now, 2 things I see here. The 3 new board members and Director Wallace are all concurring on
Time
something.
is up.
Okay, I'm on the same thing, I'm closing out. Then you have Wallace, Landsgaard. Don't do that, that's rude. Okay, Mr. President, that's why I'm saying, it's like you're gonna do it anyway, so why did we go over here and fluff it up like you really care about what these folks have to say if you've already made a decision? Thank you very much. I can't discuss that. That's not my, I bottom my points, thank you, Mr. President.
Let me close the public discussion. Most of you have had the opportunity to talk, and now I want to make my motion, okay? I want to table this item, and I want to bring back the resolutions that we're talking about tonight for the first meeting in January We will discuss the different resolutions on the first meeting in January, and we will make our decision at that time. I move to table. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I believe it's 5-0 that we presently have.
We don't have any policy committee yet, do we? Table that.
He said a workshop.
Workshop, okay.
Workshop, rather than, the reason I want a workshop is the committees are made up of 2 members. If 2 members go and make all the corrections, there's 3 people on the board that have no idea what's transpired. They haven't heard all the arguments. If we have a workshop, all 5 directors will be there to partake of that give and take, so that the policies can be put together for the betterment of the community. And so that's why I'm asking for a workshop.
Do you have a particular date in mind that you
No, I
want
don't.
to have it?
I agree with that, and I think the sooner the better. So I'm thinking, next week, Monday, Tuesday,
Not
the sooner the better.
Not during the holiday, I don't think, but
The holidays,
January 5th. Well,
no, next week,
Next Monday or Tuesday, January 29th, 30th.
no, December.
January?
I mean, December 29th and 30th.
unless.
Celebration of the New Year.
Okay, let me just see something here for a second.
If you can't just suspend the administrative handbook, that means you don't have any rules you're operating under of any significance.
Just give me a second.
How do we go about, when we made the amendments last time was that to the administrative handbook? And how does it show up that we made the amendments? Does it show up there now with policies?
So the 29th and 30th,
Well, to amend a policy, you have to amend it by how it was adopted. So it required a resolution, and it was not amended that way.
So you're not changing anything?
Yeah. It was done with a resolution. We have to write a resolution, you have to pass the resolution.
we'll just be here to hear the discussion and know where the policies are gonna go, and how they're gonna be corrected, and we can write the new resolution.
And then approve.
Yes,
Correct.
not at the workshop, at a regular meeting,
Right.
okay? So, what's the pleasure of the board, the 29th or the 30th?
Either day's fine for me, anytime.
I don't care.
Okay? Okay. What's a good time for the staff for those 2 dates?
And I'm gonna have to look at my schedule
I
too.
think, isn't staff off that week? That's what I thought.
Most of the staff is.
Yeah, we're closed, that's why I was thinking maybe we should go the week after. 'Cause you're going right in the middle of the holiday season, and I think the RCSD is going starting Friday, right? Or, well, yeah, starting Christmas Day, yeah.
Just one, how about
And then we'll
January
be open
5th?
Monday and Tuesday, and it goes again.
January the,
5th or
Yeah.
6th?
yeah, that's
5th
fine.
or 6th?
Yeah, that's fine.
We make it the 6th to the 7th is the Wednesday, right?
Yes.
We do it Wednesday the 7th?
Okay, what time of the day you wanna do it?
Should be done when the staff's here, because we there. but-
Noon to 2?
Okay. How about 1 to 3? That gives you a chance to eat.
Okay.
So it'll be Wednesday, January the 7th. And our legislature, whose district we belong to, that the problems that we're having, and see if we can't get any help from them to alleviate some of the problems that are coming down the pike towards us.
One of the things I noticed, on election night, the US Senate race swung Harry Reid out of office. And Kevin McCarthy, our congressman, who's the majority leader, they had him on TV, and he said, there's 3 things I'm gonna work on. We're gonna work on as Republicans: the economy, jobs, and oil. And you all know what happened to oil prices since he said that. Be serious about jobs and the economy, you can lift the burden of trying to comply with the Chromium-6 that the California legislature's imposed on us. And of course, the 10-year-old arsenic mandate that was placed on us at the end of the Clinton administration needs to be addressed as well, so that we're not all paying to have all this super testing, all this super drilling new wells, so we can blend this and blend that, or having to buy more ABEG water to blend that. If we have, if we just went back to the standard we had before, which is a safe standard, a safe drinking water standard, didn't change just because someone wanted to change the amount. And I know that's something that the old board actually had asked to be done. I think we need to write the letter, we need to get that in there, we need to go personally visit with Mr. McCarthy when he's in town, and certainly see Mr. Knight before he heads out to Washington, to make sure that they understand that we're serious about jobs in the county as well.
Health safety standard, and it was set many years ago. And the governor, after being pushed, I believe, by environmental groups or the ones that were watching Aaron Brockovich, kind of pushed that agenda. And that agenda got a life of its own. It was placed in a budget trailer bill, and we couldn't see the light of day to get anything done, accomplished. I walked the halls of the legislature, and I spoke to many legislators, and they were in agreement. But there was nothing that they had in their tool chest to head it off. And it moved really quick.
And that's what we're thinking is preemption. We're talking about having the federal government preempt the state of California on the issue of chromium-6. I think they can do that.
I don't think they can, because now you have sovereignty that the federal government cannot come in and take on a more strict public health. They aren't moving theirs, or haven't moved theirs. In fact, when the state of California reduced the chromium level to 50 from 100, the Fed never moved theirs, and they're still at 100. And we don't see any movement from the Fed right now to adjust theirs. I don't think that they can come in and require the state to develop a better standard. Now,
Table the Gibson and Gibson bill until we get advice from council, give council a chance to look into the bill, and then when we get that advice, bring it back on the agenda and vote on it.
Purpose for tabling is just for everybody's,
Yes.
because Steve said it was, the board approved it, so they approved it. I just asked a question.
My question is, that this is an expenditure that's already been approved.
Yes.
In the budget. So, I would say we're not gonna do it now.
No, we're not saying we're not gonna do it, we're gonna table it until we get advice from council.
I'm not against that.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded, we table the Gibson and Gibson bill.
Is it gonna come up next meeting or what?
If, as soon as council comes back, we'll put it back on the agenda.
I expect it to be the next.
Okay.
Mr. Wallace seconds it. Okay, any further discussion? Call for the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Abstaining, okay. 4-0.
we continue to work with Lahontan Regional Water Quality Control Board to secure the permits to use our recycled water. In 2011, we took the wastewater treatment facility out of mothballs and began the painstaking process of determining if the newly constructed plant would even work. It had not been tested after completion. Having experience with major construction projects, I understood the urgency of determining what may not work and giving us time to fix them. And if we were ever going to move forward with that wastewater treatment plant. As we worked through the deficiencies, we had a hard time getting the original contractors to even come back to fix what they had originally installed. And we had to test run systems to ensure they would run and would cycle properly. Hire other contractors to replace those who would not come back. State requirement, run the facility for a full year to prove the facility would do what it was designed to do. Testing water every day and sending reports to the state.
We did that?
After receiving certification, which was required by the state, loan agreement. We had to hire 2 bioscientists to determine if the recycled water met the state stringent requirements in regard to quality of recycled water produced. It not only passed, but it passed with the new higher requirements in the state. We had an option to take in the grandfathered old requirements, but opted to go to the higher requirements because it would make us look a lot better for the ultimate decision from the state. But we
Decision regarding reimbursement or grant money or?
no, just to get our certification that the plant was doing what it's supposed to do. We didn't want any problems whatsoever, any hiccups in that process. So we opted for the higher standard, and it passed with flying colors. The wastewater treatment facility was designed to produce 500,000 gallons a day, or 560 acre-feet of tertiary water at a cost of $12 million. That's about $21,428 per acre foot.
Is that good or is that expensive?
That's not too bad, but it's a little high, and it's high because when they built the plant, they built it half of the need, but they built in a lot of the second phase of the plant already. So it's got dual blower motors and things like that, so they prepared for the upgrade and the expansion to a full 1 million gallons. And so it's a little high, but the plant was certified to handle, and this was told to us by the bioscientists, that our operators were so efficient at their operation that it could produce up to 700,000 gallons a day, and they certified it as such.
Our operators are not the scientists, they're the people who work for the district?
Correct. After the certification was obtained, the state issued their letter, which came several months after the testing, and we were able to submit our permits to the Lahontan Regional Water Quality Control Board in the latter part of 2013. And the Lahontan did what they do, and for some time, and simultaneously we were preparing the Master Recycled Water Master Plan, and this document here to go hand in hand with our application for the permitting. And we had a state grant help us with that, $75,000 in a state grant to help us prepare the master plan. And while we were doing that, everything was going fine. And then in July of this year, the 2 agencies, the California Department of Public Health and the State Regional Water Quality Control Board merged. And with that merger, we were kind of collateral damage. And there was changes in how these processes were to be done, and they required us to reapply. So we had to reapply, give them additional information, put it in a different format, and we're off and running again.
The permit, not the grant, right? You get the grant regardless?
What grant?
The $75,000 grant, we're getting that.
We'll have that reimbursed within the next 30 days. We should be receiving that.
Permit by June. In the meantime, do we have anywhere to sell the water to, or?
We have takers and letters for the water, but we can't send any water off site until we get those permits. I'm not at liberty to go into details of the adjudication, but just wanted to state for the benefit of the people here tonight and the board that the adjudication settlement agreement is winding down, and they propose to have that to the court by the 15th of January, and hopefully the court will review it in a timely manner, and sometime before or around the June timeframe, we hopefully will have everything ironed out and have finalization to the adjudication. It has been a long, arduous litigation. spanning since 1999. And the cost for attorneys to do that is exorbitant. And this is not the best resolve for this district. It is not the best resolve for any district or any party to the adjudication. Nobody is getting away with more than they should. And in fact, everybody's taken a hit, a significant hit. The end of the adjudication process that began in '99 signals other challenges, however. As I mentioned in previous meetings, the ramp down, there will be a ramp down taking about 7 years to complete. 2 years of free pumping and then 5 years to get down to your number. During the period, we'll be consolidating 10 mutual or water companies into our district, and that will be approximately 1,250 connections as it stands today. And
We have 10 mutual.
1,250 additional connections, approximately 888 acre feet need.
I'm only aware of Buttes Mutual being close by here. Is that one of them?
Buttes Mutual?
Or that's already been dissolved? Buttes Mutual is the one that used to have the ABEC water, had the raw water, and then it had the...
That one has nothing to do with our consolidation.
Okay, and then we're talking about that subdivision. We didn't go over that one, right?
The Fitz subdivision has already been taken over, yes.
And then William Fisher out there in Backus Road, are we doing that too?
That one we are in receivership, but it is also the part of the consolidation, water going to it.
Land of promise.
Land of Promise, 60th Street, First Mutual.
Question about William Fisher. It's not in the district. How do we rectify that? Are we going to annex that?
When we do the consolidation, all of those will be brought in an annexation simultaneous. That it has to happen.
We haven't started that process though, will that go?
No, we haven't. That'll start happening when we start with a construction grant. We got 1.5 million to do the engineering and feasibility. It was supposed to be done this month, but because of the Chromium 6 and my insistence that the state help us with that, we wrapped that into that portion of the grant for a test well that we're in the process of going out to bid for the drilling of.
Would it be helpful to start the LAFCO process now though?
You can't because you don't know what adjudication is. You have to wait until it's.
Well, we have, the adjudication really doesn't affect that part. It affects the water that they get and the quantity, but not the consolidation. We can't start that unless we want to pay for it ourselves.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Who was telling us that we have to consolidate with these other water boards, other districts?
Well, it was a process that was started before I got here, but it was requested by the California Department of Public Health. These are all entities that have some problem with their water, arsenic or some other chemical or heavy metal problem with their wells, and they have to do something. So they had requested Rosamond to consolidate them into one system. And it's the largest project in the state of California, and it's close to 20 million total. And we were supposed to get a grant for it, and I don't know today if we're going to get that grant, but we darn sure are going to get the 1.5 million and get our engineering paid for. So when we get to the construction side, I will have that discussion with the state bureaucracy as to whether or not they're going to require us to borrow or to grant us that money like it was first told us.
The reason I was asking that question, I don't want to see us put the cart before the horse, okay? When they finalize that and tell us that we have to do it, would be the time to go to LAFCO.
LAFCO has a certain number of fees, I guess. If they're going to have some fees, maybe they're going to pay for them as well. In other words, we're picking up William Fisher.
All of it.
They'll pick up
All
LAFCO
the fees, connection fees, everything are wrapped into this whole.
Can we figure out what the LAFCO fees are?
Yeah, that came to us and asked if we would be interested in receiving a pilot project for our chromium in wells 8 and 9. We did that. I reported it to you before, and they have come back and said that they can do not only the chromium, but the arsenic also. And they brought out Monday another 4-foot, 8-inch by 4-foot column, which is kind of super imposed with the resin. And what they want to do is they want to test it. The testing for just the chromium, they saw that the arsenic was also taken out, but if they just added a little bit more resin, they could take it to points where they wouldn't have to worry, so they wanted to run that portion again, so they booked up on Monday. They'll pick it up, I believe, the 14th of January. Then they'll take it to UC Davis, analyze it, and let us know that it's working at no extra cost for the overall project. I had reported earlier the state model that they had us use, put our costs at about 10 to 12 million for infrastructure, with approximately 150,000 a year for each well, operations and maintenance, O&M costs. This one, when they did it, came out to 1.4 million for the infrastructure, and that'll take care of 2 wells. And the spin-off of that also is the O&M cost is only 45,000 a year, and we'll get the arsenic cleaned up as well as the chromium.
Where are the 2 wells in place?
Those 2 wells are already in place, 8 and 9. They're on Gaskell at 47th and 57th.
Okay. And no problems with AVIC getting into their secondary source of water there, what do they call that? They used to have a water there about 60th and Gaskell.
I think they were talking about having one. I don't think they ever did anything.
Okay. The other thing is, but they're doing this for free right now, is that right? INS is testing, is testing. If it ever did come to $10 to $12 million to do something like that, we should look at something like sinking the well in a water bank and piping it back here. Has anybody ever tested the water from the water bank to see what the arsenic levels and the chromium-6 levels are?
Got that well already in my sights. Already discussed with the people that own it.
Oh, we can buy a farmer's well?
It's actually a portable well.
Okay. Well, that would be.
But it's a long way. It's, I think it's at 1/40th, so we're looking at 11 miles.
Okay. There's.
It'd be, depending on the size of the line, 12-inch line for about a 2-mile run is about 1.1 million.
Have we done anything to talk to the farmers who quit farming out there? Did they ever retain their water rights when the solar guys took over? Or?
Now, the adjudication is taking care of a whole bunch of that, and what's going to happen after the adjudication comes, you're going to see people wheeling and dealing their water rights. I've already started discussions with a lot of landowners, those that can't farm because they don't have enough water to make their farming operations work. It's darn sure going to run a lot of farming out of the area, but it's going to produce a lot of local available water. So that's where our focus is going to have to be for a lot of our water in the future.
And I guess getting back to the piping the water back this way, is there anything available as far as landowner bonds or otherwise financing the piping back this way?
Bonds, you could probably do a bond, we might, and it's very iffy that we could get any grant money to help pay for something coming in that far because of our economic situation in Rosamond. It's not low enough, and we wouldn't qualify for millions of dollars that are available. But a bond issue might be state infrastructure bank at a very low interest rate, like a 1%, 1.5%, something like that. Might be doable, 2%, but
It would be cheaper than having to buy the water from Payback in the long run, is that type of thing?
the way water's going right now, you might be right. And one of the things I need to caution the board with, if we look at bonds, whatever the cost of the project is, double it. And that's what your bond will cost. It's almost a doubling effect. If it's CSDA, as you're aware, those types of instruments for infrastructure loans are great for the organization. They're good for some borrowings because other areas won't loan maybe that low, but the interest rate in a lot of areas might be better. And for the sake of the ratepayers and everything else, if we can get it lower, we might have to look at that. But I'd like to do CSDA finance board at all parts.
The house and the lateral, is the property owner responsible for that all the way to the center of the street?
The sewer line
Yeah.
on the property.
I thought it was
lateral.
always, it's not all the way to the center of the street.
No, that part's ours.
Wait,
Right where it hits the property line is responsibility of the property. And the water line is anything on the
inside
house side of the meter.
meter, right? Okay, thank you.
Update on the solar installations, well 9 is 35% complete. Wastewater treatment ponds is 15% complete. Administration, the one here locally, is 35% complete. I think those numbers might be a little bit outdated. I put this together last week, and they have been really moving on the admin side here. All of the panels are up, the motors are on them because they're trackers, and they're starting some of the underground now.
Want to discuss item 6?
Item 6, they repaired 3 service, well, 1 service line, 2 angle stops. Those are your shut-offs. They completed their monthly meter reading, and
Now, there's still your report on the, we're not on
Got a snow report, 70 inches so far.
what's that?
the snow report.
Oh, you were talking about
You
number
missed
6 on my report.
Yeah, you skipped over.
The snow report, there's 70 inches. I checked Mammoth, and they got 70 inches of snow. Last year, over a 4-month period from October to the end of January, we only had 60 inches. So we're a little bit ahead for 2 months of precipitation in November and only half of December. So that's encouraging, certainly.
They
But
said up north is the wettest December they've ever had.
right, and they're getting a lot of water, and the problem is we need snowpack, or we're gonna have flooding, and that was one of the things that we were worried about. If this average holds, just the average, it'll throw us in at about 280 inches of snowpack, which is not very much higher than the 238 inches that we had last year. So we would still be in a problem. But in the average in the mountains up around the Mammoth area, from 69 through the present was 350 inches is the average, and that's about 29 feet of snow. We need to get that so we have the slow runoff, recharge of the aquifers, and all of those. So we're looking to that. AVAC the state had told the state water contractors that this was about a month and a half ago or 2 that their allocation was 0. Now they're up to 10%. So they're extremely encouraged right now.
Finances and positioning of the district as a whole, as well as the activities in each fund activity. I don't want to read it to you, but for the benefit of the audience, I will go over it. The report here is for the 3 months ended September 30th, 2014. The financial analysis in this report is for water, sewer, street lighting, and parks. They are unaudited figures. The revenue actuals have not been adjusted for quarterly or yearly collection of taxes, charges for services or assessment fees, and similarly, expenditure actuals have not been adjusted for one-time expenditures such as liability insurance. These factors slightly skew the data in this budget to the actual comparison. So keeping that in mind, for the 14-15 fiscal year, the district is projected to maintain a positive operating position. At the end of the first quarter of each fiscal year, expenditures typically exceed revenues as a result of the timing of property tax receipts. Because this is the initial year of the semi-annual sewer-based collections at Rosamond Community Services District, the sewer revenues for the base fee only are collected twice a year. And so the budgeted versus the actual collection of those revenues has been significantly skewed at this time. We'll have a better picture of that at the second quarter report. If you'll flip to page 2, please. Have a breakdown of the water fund. As you see, the water revenues are about 18%. Charges for services are trending at 23%, so we're close to our 25%, which is 1/4 of the fiscal year. Water expenditures are 23%. Salaries and wages trending at 27%, but holiday, sick, and vacation at 16%, due mostly to the season.
So what you're saying is, this is for October, November, December, but you don't have December's yet?
First quarter is August, July, August, and September.
So July, August, September.
The period ended September 30th.
And the revenues we have from that period are 18% of the year's revenue.
That's correct.
So we're a little behind the revenues.
We are. As you see on page 2, the connection installation charges, they are not seasonal, they're not quarterly, they don't come in proportionately. They come in as developers build. So we budget annually about $140,000. We've only seen about $15,000 of that through September.
Just one house? What is in one house's connection fee, about $15,000?
It's one development, yes.
Just one house though?
No,
Oh, it's one,
it could be made up of several.
okay. But I know the one across the way that is continuing to that looks like actually 2 or 3 houses.
Right.
Okay.
The December report should have more accurate data because we have collected several more of those connection fees subsequent to September 30th.
And I might interject right there in regard to the development across the street. They had paid for under the lower fees before they were increased. And I believe they have 92 total homes. They had paid for, I want to say about 80 of them. So we only get 12 at the existing rate.
Well, they paid for them 20 years ago,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Charges for services, we budgeted $3.3 million. We've only collected 102 as of September 30th.
Usually you won't collect that till December 10th, really, from most people, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
However, the expenditures, or the expenses, excuse me, are quite in line with our expectations. Salaries and wages came in a little bit lower, as did holiday, sick, and vacation pay. Repairs and maintenance came in a little bit above, but everything else outside of the office and employment expenses, which came in at 38%, that we will see trending across all of the analysis. We pay a general liability bill of about $115,000 to $120,000
Insurance?
per year. Yes,
Is it $150,000 in insurance every year?
Right.
Who's our insurance carrier?
SDRMA,
SDR, what is that stand for?
Special Districts
Risk
Risk Management Association. Thank you. That's a one-time fee. We've recorded it all because it crosses the entire fiscal year.
I might add, they're probably the cheapest in the state, as well as the CIP points that the board members and staff go to the trainings. That's where we get the kickbacks for our premium payments, and that's why we do that.
And that's included in the $115 they spent in the first quarter. Is that right, Fred?
Yeah, in the office and employment expenses line item there,
That's what,
so 38%,
that's why it's so high.
that will smooth over the rest of the year.
Okay.
If there's no further questions, we'll move on to street lighting funds. Revenues came in at about 14%, which is lower than expected. We'll be following up on that to see why. And the expenditures are trending in a favorable position at 18%.
Well, let me back up on that. Streetlights too, or at least like 27 districts are now tax districts that pay their streetlight bill, that extra bill is paid December 10th, right?
There is a timing difference, yes.
Okay.
So again, come December and January, we should have more accurate data for the 6-month period. No further questions on streetlights, park fund, down on the following page. As we all know, the parks have only one revenue source, which is the CSA property tax, and again, that's paid in December or January. So we will have a better comprehensive picture of what happens in the park funds come the second quarter report. As you'll see, we budget $230,000 for property taxes and assessments. We've only collected $17,000 as of September 30th. Again, permits and fees, $230,000. We've collected only $9,652. We expect that to increase.
How do we collect permits and fees in parks?
It's not technically a permits and fees for financial accounting and reporting purposes. It's grouped. That expenditure line item, if you would like additional detail, I'd be happy to get to you.
I just didn't know we had that many people paying fees.
We don't. It's just a reporting line item for simplicity purposes.
Okay.
As you'll see, all of the analysis and the charts have the same line item. Some of them have 0 because of the way it's presented. To discuss a fund's earnings or losses over several fiscal years, it's not to be confused with the amount of cash any particular fund may have at any time. Fund balances after first quarter are in line with expectations, as seen in the graph below. The streetlights and park funds are continuing to lose money annually. As seen on the next page, these funds are also out of cash, and were so at the end of the fiscal year 13-14.
We actually have 23 million in the water balance? And 14 million in the sewer?
That's an accumulation over the existence of the enterprise.
Is that including like our capital project or like the sewer lines?
Infrastructure.
You have infrastructure in fund balance as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you're talking sewer lines and water lines.
You're talking, yes, you have all your fixed assets in your fund balance as well.
Okay.
Anything that is not an asset or a liability is considered a fund balance, much like retained earnings in the private sector.
Okay. So we don't really have that cash anymore, it's just.
That's why I made the delineation.
Okay.
While it is normal for these types of funds to run a fund balance deficit, it is not normal for them to run a cash deficit. Management has taken measurements to control these costs in the current fiscal year, but new revenue sources are required if the district is going to entertain the idea of continued parks and recreation services for the community. As seen here, fund balances for water and sewer remain steady at expected levels. Street and parks continue to incur more expenditures than revenues taken in.
Did you have a chance to talk to Mr. Weinstein over at the school superintendent's office
In regard to what?
to keep the parks going?
What would his capacity be financially?
Financially, they need what we've got. That'd be something we could work with them on.
Okay. Should be happy to dialogue about that.
I'm not sure we have any parks to give it.
Well, they started the girls' tennis team, for example. 27 girls came out. They've got 3 courts. That's, the most you can put on a team is 9. That's 3 strings. The only time we have to play all of them, the baby high school has 15 courts. Well, we got 2 extra courts. We also got a swimming pool. He's building a $1.2 million park right next to our park. It's going to be starting right around the next 2 weeks. He has a few more employees than we do, so we might be able to dedicate people who know are experts or specialists in maintaining parks. And we might be able to do it cheaper. He might be able to save us some money if we work with him. And I think he would like to also, since we can do parks and he can, we talked to the county, maybe the county give us some money for Glendower, and he can maintain Glendower cheaper than what the county's giving us, then that's a boon to us. That's something we can use.
Well, I understand the concept. I didn't know he had a tennis team that in all of those.
Yeah, they just started that. They just refurbished the tennis courts and put up all new slats and they redid the colors, or red now and black, I think. It's just kind of cool for tennis.
I do know he has money. That's why we went to him to take over United Street. we had 0.
Well, they also have people that have to take care of lawns that's all they do, whereas I think our guys are mostly out there making sure the water works and the sewer works, and that's what they do.
Page, annual fund balances are projected to decrease by a nominal of $3,000 in the water fund, increase by $1.2 million in the sewer fund, decrease $48,000 in the street funds, and decrease by $212,000 in the park funds pursuant to the budget. Finally, on the last page, our cash balances. Cash sources and uses of each fund show on a real-time basis how the fund is performing in a given period of time. For the quarter ended September 30th, 2014, the district took in $16,824 more dollars than it paid out. As you can see on the chart, the water fund spent approximately $80,000 more than it took in. The sewer took in $35,000 more than it spent. Street pay spent $300 more than it took in. And the parks took in $69 more than it spent.